Okay, let's start. Hello everyone, welcome to the Kazakhstan American Corner programs. Boost your IELTS, top tips from experts. We are so excited to have all of you again. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sultanat. I am American Corner Nur-Sultan coordinator, and I will be with you along with my colleague behind the scene, Dasan, who will be serving you also as a moderator. I would like to mention that the meeting is being recorded, and after we will post it in our YouTube channel. That's all from my side. I would like to flow over you to our virtual English language fellow from Nur-Sultan, U.S. Department of State, English Language Programs, Mr. August Garnsey. Hello, August, welcome.
Thank you, Sultana. Thank you for the warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Thrilled to have this webinar here. Thrilled to have everybody here join together. I'm already showing we have some great numbers. So really nice to see everyone joining us this evening. Let me go and I'm going to share my screen here and we'll kind of go ahead and begin because we have some great invited speakers here tonight to join us.
We can see your screen, August.
Okay, so again, so as Sultanat mentioned, so our webinar today, Boost Your IELTS, Tips from the Experts. And definitely, we have a collection of fantastic teachers, both from Kazakhstan and also from the UK as well, that will be joining us here tonight to provide some specific tips and things that are going to help you to boost your IELTS score. And just to let everyone know again, too, by attending this event, you may be photographed potentially for promotional purposes for things with the U.S. Department of State or U.S. Embassy of Kazakhstan, RELO, or for American Corner Nur-Sultan as well. So by your attending this event, you do provide consent. Now, as Sultanat mentioned, I am currently the virtual English language fellow here for Nur-Sultan. What does this kind of mean? So basically, currently right now, I am partnered with my host institution, which is Eurasian National University in Nur-Sultan. I teach undergraduate and graduate programs within their foreign languages theory and practice departments. And in addition to that, also, I do work with various groups across Kazakhstan through the U.S. Department of State's English Access Microscholarship program. For instance, I work with some groups in Atbasar, Semey, Kazygurt, and Uralsk as well. And plus, one of my most favorite things every week that I love to do is to work with Sultanat here at American Corners Nur-Sultan. So again, these are all some of the responsibilities and things that I do in Kazakhstan. My email address and contact is up in the upper left-hand corner. If you guys ever have questions or want to reach out to me, do feel free. Previously, before I was a fellow, I was living in Kokshetau. So I do have experience, even though I'm living now in the United States. I will be back shortly to Kazakhstan. So I'm looking forward to returning for in-person fellowship responsibilities as well. Okay. So I do actually have a little kind of survey that would like all of our participants here to complete here while you're going through this webinar at some point. So please finish this survey before you leave. I will put the link into our chat and you can access that and just answer a few questions so we can get to know you a little bit better and help to provide maybe more specific or structured type of programming or things for our participants and for the community of American Corners Kazakhstan. Okay, and I will put that link into the chat in just a moment after I go ahead and pass it over to our first invited guest speaker. Okay, so our first invited guest speaker is going to be Michael Walker. Michael's from Newcastle, from the United Kingdom. And Michael, actually, I got the privilege to work alongside Michael this past year in Kokshetau at NIS. Okay, and so I have firsthand seen what Michael is capable of doing in helping to coach and mentor and guide students and test takers of IELTS into improving their score. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us right now to start with the webinar, but he will be joining us later to be able to answer some questions towards the end. So Michael Walker will join us later on. I will provide a video that he has recorded previously that was for our session here. So I'm going to go and play the video, and I hope that you do enjoy. One moment. There we go. Hold on a second. I lost my screen for a moment here. There we go. Okay. Sultan, can you see the video screen?
Yes, now it's a video.
All right. Thank you, guys. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome. My name's Michael, and grab yourself a little coffee or tea and sit down, relax, and listen to these IELTS strategies and tips. My email address is maw651978@gmail.com. So please, please, please contact me if you need any help, and I will try to help you. Here is my experience in education. The most important piece of information there is the fact that I'm an IELTS examiner. I've got a lot of experience helping students pass the exam and also examining them and giving them their IELTS score. So today we're going to look at IELTS speaking band descriptors, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and also some useful websites that will help you. So this is the IELTS speaking band descriptors. This is gold for you as a student, pure gold. If you want to get a high score, you need to understand what the examiners want. This is the sheet we, the examiners, use to examine students. Download it now, go to Google, type in IELTS speaking band descriptors, click on the link, download the PDF, put it on your phone, keep it close to you, use it, refer to it every time you are studying, and keep ticking off every little time you do something correct. There's a little checklist on there that you can see, and you can examine yourself and give yourself a score. We're going to look through each of those different band descriptors. So the first one we're going to look at is fluency. Okay, so what is the examiner looking for in fluency? Well, it's kind of what is he not looking for. He's not wanting you to hesitate or repeat yourself or do a lot of self-correction. Okay, he doesn't want to hear you saying that kind of hesitation will not get you a high score. Okay, hesitation is natural, we all do it, but it's very rare that we do it all of the time. As I'm speaking now, I'm not hesitating because I know what I'm going to say. It's very natural. Okay, that's where you want to be, and to get to that point you need to practice. Okay, speak into your phone, answer an IELTS question, record yourself, keep doing that regularly for many days, and you will find that your hesitation disappears. Okay, there's another tip I've got for fluency. This tip is related to part 2 questions, the dreaded part 2, where you have to speak for 2 minutes, and you must speak for 2 minutes. Okay, if you do not speak for 2 minutes, you will not get a high score in fluency. Okay, part 2 questions are difficult because it's really hard to know what are you going to be talking about, but you can prepare, because I've noticed from doing the test hundreds of times that the questions can be put into 3 different categories. Questions about a person, questions about a place, questions about an item. Okay, and you can prepare for those topics, right? I'll show you how. Let's say you get a question about a person. You've just prepared a lovely introduction about one person you know that you can talk about. Yeah, you've got 3 questions on your screen. Describe a person who taught you something important. Describe an interesting conversation with an old person. Describe a person you know who is good at his or her job. Okay, those 3 questions, you could have one answer for it. That answer could be your father. You could talk about your father who has taught you something, an interesting conversation you had with your father, or the fact that your father is good at his job. Okay, and the introduction to your part 2, you can prepare it before you go to the exam. So you can make a nice little frame like this. I'd like to talk about my father. I am the baby of the family, and because I am the youngest, my father has a soft spot for me. I remember a time when I was 10 years old and my father taught me to ride a bike, or had a very important conversation with me, or told me about his job. And what you've done there is you haven't planned the whole of part 2, but you have memorized the introduction. And that's fine, because most people memorize the introduction. They normally paraphrase the question, okay? So it won't sound unnatural or robotic if you just do a very short introduction. Then you go into all of the different questions you've got to answer. But by making that short introduction, you will be reducing your nerves, you will be increasing your fluency. And you can also make sure you put in some idioms that will help you with your vocabulary. I've used baby of the family and has a soft spot for me. Okay, and then it's exactly the same for the place. Let's say you've got a question about describe a town or city you would like to live or work in. Describe a place you went to on holiday. Describe a perfect vacation. Okay, each one of those 3 questions you could use the same city for. Almaty, London, New York, you choose. You make an introduction, 2 or 3 sentences that will improve your fluency for the rest of the part 2. Is the vocabulary, okay? And the big difference between band 6 and band 7, 8, and 9 is the fact that you need to use idioms and collocations if you want to get a band 7, 8, or 9. You can see in band 6 there's no mention of idioms. But in band 7, 8, and 9, we've got to use them. But there's hundreds and hundreds of idioms, so which one do you use? Really difficult. You can remember like 10 idioms, maybe something like, it's raining cats and dogs. But if you don't get a question about rain, or you don't get a question about the weather, then there's no point remembering that idiom, because you can't use it. It would be unnatural. You can only use an idiom when it's the correct choice, okay? So what I have done, because I'm a very kind person, is I've made a lot of YouTube videos that about idioms that you can use in IELTS. This YouTube channel, Posh English, if you click on the QR code, it'll take you there, has about 40 idioms that you can use in the exam. And every week there's a new idiom added to it. You can just look through them, browse them, and practice them, put them into your answers. I'll show you an example of one. This is a really good one because it's not specific to a topic, okay? You can use this one for any question about anything. I've drawn a blank, which means I am unable to find information. So let's say in part 3, you get a really difficult part 3 question. You don't know what to say. So be honest and say, that's an interesting question. Sorry, I've drawn a blank. Could you rephrase the question? Then the examiner will rephrase the question. You have a little bit of time to think. And then you give your answer, okay? But what you've done there is you've given yourself some thinking time, and you've also used an idiom, which will help you get a high score in the vocabulary. There are also videos for collocations as well on that channel. Remember that you can use collocations in your writing and in your speaking, but you can only use idioms in your speaking, okay? Then we've got our grammar, which a lot of people get very worried about, and quite rightly so. It's really difficult, grammar, but don't worry about it. And I'll explain to you now why you shouldn't worry about grammar. All you need to remember are these 3 golden rules, okay? Make sure all your simple sentences are perfect. So there's no mistakes like, I is a student, okay? I am a student. Make sure they are perfect. Make sure all compound sentences are perfect, right? When you join 2 simple sentences together. I study at Nazarbayev University and my major is English, okay? Make sure that you use complex sentences, but they do not need to be perfect. You can make mistakes in them and still get a band 7 or a band 8 or a band 9. You can see on our sheet, even in band 9 and band 8, they expect you to make some errors, okay? But as long as you attempt to make a complex sentence, that can be enough to give you a band 7 in the speaking, okay? If you don't know what a complex sentence is, there's an example on the screen for you. Next one is pronunciation. I think it's the easiest one. I never really find that anybody who takes the IELTS test gets anywhere near like a 5, really. Most people who are confident enough to take the test are going to be a 6 or a 7. And if you are a band 6 or a band 7 in fluency, then you're probably going to be a band 7 or an 8 in pronunciation. That's just how they are connected. But if you feel you have a problem with pronunciation, then record yourself answering the questions, wait 2 or 3 days, then listen to yourself speaking the answer, ask yourself the question, can you understand yourself? If the answer is yes, well done, you don't need to do anything else. But if the answer is no, then what you need to do is find out which words you did not understand and go to Google, type the word and then the word pronunciation, and you will get this screen. And this is Google's little pronunciation screen, and you just need to click the speaker and the lips will move and you'll get the perfect pronunciation, and just practice again, okay? There's a really good BBC website as well that can help you with pronunciation, and I'll share that with you at the end. So those are the kind of general strategies that you can use for each individual section of it, okay? Something that I need to tell you again, because it's very important, is in part 2, speak for 2 minutes. That's very important, okay? But the only way you are going to get like a band 8 or a band 9 is if you practice, and you practice a lot, as much as possible. You need to cover yourself in English, okay? Everything you do in your native language, you need to do in English, okay? So you need to be thinking in English, dreaming in English, reading English books, reading English websites, writing everything down in English, speaking in English, and listening to English music and podcasts, okay? Like completely cover yourself in English. That will get you to a band 8 or 9 because they are the native levels, okay? You are going to get a question about a person in the exam. That's like definite. You'll either be talking about you or you'll be talking about somebody else. So you need to have a good list of adjectives that describes a person's appearance or character. So use the more advanced ones for that. Big tip for any kind of learning, not just for IELTS, but read. Read everything you can, okay? And do some active reading. Don't just read it, oh, I am reading this book, it's very interesting. But do it in an active way. If you find a word you don't understand, try to work out what it means in the context. You still don't understand, highlight it, put it into Google, get the definition, use your vocabulary notebook, write the word and the definition in your notebook, write an example sentence, and then put that word into one of your answers when you're preparing for the test. Okay? Nearly at the end now again, so let me share some useful websites for you. Posh English, that's my YouTube website, so you can look at that and have a look around. Tim's Pronunciation Workshop is the BBC website I was telling you about. There's like, I don't know, maybe about 100 little short videos about how to pronounce each sound in English. IDP IELTS speaking samples is really good because it's people taking the test, then they are given their score, and they're also given a description about why they got a band 7 or a band 8, and what they did well, what they did badly, okay? So that's really good practice for you. The IELTS practice test, that's just what it is. It's got loads of IELTS speaking, reading, listening, and writing tests on there. And then there's the link to the IELTS band descriptors. Okay, if you want this PowerPoint, you can send me an email and I'll forward it to you, and then you can just click on the link and that will take you to that website. Yeah, so that's about it. So I'll see you later, hopefully, for some questions and some answers. Okay. I hope that's been helpful for you. Yeah, and we will meet again. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, so that was Michael Walker presenting on his tips and strategies for the speaking parts of IELTS. And just to emphasize again, Sultan mentioned at the beginning, we will have a Q&A session. Michael will be joining us later, as long as for all our invited speakers. So please put questions into the chat. We'll be collecting questions as we go along. We'll be addressing those questions at the end in a live Q&A session after all of our speakers have presented on their parts, okay? And also, let me go ahead and I will put, now that I'm done with the video, I will go and put that link that I mentioned about the survey into the chat. But let me go and pass it off to our next invited speaker. Okay, our next invited speaker is Elena Fiotistova. I had the privilege of working with Elena. She actually is the one that practically introduced me to webinars in Kazakhstan a few years back. She invited me to present in a webinar series that she was working on through KazT as part of her project as a Fulbright visiting scholar. She was at the University of Oregon, and really, once she got me going on that one in 2018, I haven't been able to stop, and here I am now doing more webinars. So thank you, Elena, for bringing me together to Kazakhstan like that. I'm going to go and pass it over to you, so thank you very much.
So thank you so much for inviting me today as a speaker. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint as well. So I'm Elena Fiotistova, and I'm going to share some IELTS listening tips with you. But a few words about me. So I've been teaching English for over 27 years, and I've been training students to take TOEFL and IELTS tests, I guess, since 2007. And also, I've been training foreign students when I was a Fulbright visiting scholar at the University of Oregon. There were students from Japan, Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, and all of them wanted to take IELTS and pass it with a good score to be able to study at an American university. So, and the same year, 2018, I got my teaching online certificate in higher education from company Quality Matters. This is a company which monitors and regulates online education worldwide. And this is where I learned how to teach online. And I always try to involve such wonderful speakers as August and Anna and other speakers as well. So at present, I'm running my own English online school. And if you want to find more, you can visit my Instagram page. You will be getting a guide with all the tips I'm going to share today with you. And yeah, so, and also if you have some questions, please write them in the chat. So, and as for the IELTS listening tips, I will start with something that you shouldn't do. I know that a lot of speakers tell you, and presenters and examiners tell you, do this and this, but I think also it is really important to know what you shouldn't do. So do not do too many IELTS practice tests, because some people think that if they complete like study for 2-3 hours and do test, their skills will improve. No, what you should do, you should make your skills automatic, and later I will be telling on how you could do that. So also, do not watch YouTube videos of random people who took IELTS once in their life and they say, hello, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm going to share some perfect tips, because as you have noticed from the previous speaker, that the thing that you should pay special attention is IELTS band descriptors and all those criteria, what the exam and the examiner are expecting from you. And I don't think that people who took IELTS once, they know this. And they have, even if they studied those band descriptors, I don't think they went in there deeply. And the third don't is, do not listen to high level audios if you are lower level learner. Because if you start with something hard, your brain will be telling you, oh, that's too hard. Oh, let's have a break. Let's get some tea, whatever. By the way, today I will be also giving you some tips on how to avoid your brain being scared from the exam, because when people open band descriptors, they think, oh, oh my God, I don't understand anything there. So yeah. And today I will be sharing some IELTS listening tips together with some tips on how you can avoid avoid being scared. So now what you should do, listen to the audios according to your level. So I think that all of those who are going to take IELTS, you have taken at least some placement test, and you know what is your like average level, maybe A2, B1, B2, and you know that those CEFR levels, they're closely connected to the IELTS score you are going to get. So before starting to train for IELTS, please take placement test. And then choose some audios that you will be practicing your listening skills according to your level, or sometimes at the beginning even lower, because this will build your confidence and you will see, I understand in this audio everything, so I'm ready to pass on the next level. So also today I'm going to share some 10 steps for listening, which I really recommend you to use every time you practice your listening skills. So why you should do that? When you take IELTS exam, it's really hard to get focused, because you come to the exam, you sit, and you know that you will hear the text only once, and you should be able to hear all the answers to the questions. And the tricky thing is that the answer to the first question is usually at the end of the first minute. And when you're listening to a foreign text, your brain begins to get tired again and begins to be relaxed. So sometimes you are looking forward to this answer and you don't hear it. And then you think, oh, I missed it, I missed the answer. And then it comes at the beginning of the second minute. So, and those 10 steps will really help you focus, and I will show you in a minute how. So another thing that I really recommend my students to do is practice writing the script to the audio, and then, and then check yourself with the transcript or with the key. And you can start with some easier level text at first and then go to the next level. Also, I will be sharing a link to Jennifer's Fast Speech Challenge, because it will really help you to understand connected speech of the native speakers, because when we speak, we always connect the words, especially native speakers do that. When we are non-native speakers, we make some more pauses and so on. So let's start with 10 steps. And so I recommend using those 10 steps every time you practice your listening skills, and even during the exam. So when you get used to using those 10 steps, you will be doing them automatically, and this will help you focus. So when you look at the text or the questions, you will understand what do you already know about this topic. So I will be switching between the slides and showing you, for example, before the listening, you will see some questions. And if you look at the slide, you will see that the topic of this audio is about traveling, insurance, and something like that. So now we will be doing it a little bit longer, but when you do it automatically several times, you will get used to it, and it will take just a few seconds to think about it. So you look at the questions and you say, okay, so this is about insurance or about traveling, and you see that you need to fill in some details. So the next question is, so what do you expect to hear about this topic? So you looked at the form and you see that you are going to hear most likely a conversation or a phone call where two people will be talking. So, and this is closely connected to the next question that you should ask yourself. So what discourse pattern do you expect to hear? Is it a dialogue? Is it a monologue? Is it a lecture or a talk? So by answering these questions, you are preparing yourself for the listening and you are getting focused. And the next question is, what specific language do you expect to hear? So if this is a phone call about some traveling and insurance company, and most likely that the lady is calling the insurance company after some accident, so you're going to hear some specific language connected with this accident. And the fifth question that you ask yourself before you start listening is, what do you expect to be difficult about this listening? By the way, you're welcome to write some comments in the chat. So what do you expect to be difficult about this listening? Perhaps this is an accent, or people will be speaking too fast, or there are two speakers, so one of the speakers might be speaking very clearly and the other is not. So, and another important thing that you should do before the listening and while listening is take notes. And I recommend when you take notes, please divide your piece of paper into two parts. And on the one, for example, on the left, write down some ideas and some concepts. And on the other side, write some words or maybe dates or some important ideas and details that you need. Number 8 is very important. When you finish listening, and we're speaking now only about practicing listening, so this is not during the exam, this is before the exam. Ask yourself, how well did you understand the audio? And rate yourself from 1 to 10, whereas 1, I didn't understand anything, and 10, I understood nearly everything, absolutely everything, every detail, every article, every preposition. So, and also a good question to ask yourself is, what problems did you have? And the last one, how you can improve in the future. So I really recommend using those 10 questions every time you practice listening, and you will be receiving a guide, listening tips guide, after this webinar. And another tip that I'm going to share with you is some resources that you can use. So you will receive resources that I'm sharing, and I will take just a minute to share some of them with you. Sorry, the sun is coming out. And yeah, so as for resources and how you're going to use them, as I've mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, I really recommend you using some audios which are according to your level. And here at examenglish.com, you can find different or graded listening. So some audios with listening where you can practice listening using different levels. For example, you have taken placement test and you realize that you are B2 or B1 language learner. So you click here and then choose B1 listening. You can listen to the audios as many times as you want, and also there are some questions and you can check yourself as well. Another great resource is, of course, British Council resource, and you go to skills and again choose your level. So you can also practice C1 level text. And what I recommend you is not just listen, but also take some preparation exercises where usually you have to do some matching. And then before listening to the audio, look at task 1 and see what is required from you. And also complete task 2. And don't forget that you also can really improve your listening comprehension by writing the script of the audios. And start with something easier, because our brain is very tricky. When do I call brain he or she? So when he is scared, then it's really hard to make him do something. But when you tell him, okay, here are 10 steps, I'm going to complete those 10 steps, and then it will be easier. So, and the final thing that I'd like to share with you is fast speech challenge by Jennifer, which I found on YouTube, and I really like using it with my students, because those students who have completed it, there are 20 videos, 3 or 4 minutes each. And in every video, she explains what do native speakers connect. For example, in day 1 of video 1, linking consonant to a vowel. And you watch the video, you can practice and repeat after Jennifer, and then try to look in other audios or native speaker speech how people are connecting those things. And the final tip that I'd like to share with you, I know that a lot of students are really interested. Okay, what do you think? What score I can get? What do you think my essay or speaking audio, what score I can get? So it's really hard to evaluate writing or speaking without IELTS speaking examiner, but here's IELTS calculator. And for example, when you have practiced your listening skills and other skills a lot, then you are ready to do some IELTS preparation practice test. So you take one test, complete 40 questions in listening, check yourself with the keys, and then you can see, for example, you scored 25. So what score will you get if you have 25 questions out of 40? Let's see, that's 6. And the more you get, the higher your score is. So please write your questions in the chat if you have any. And also I wanted to introduce my IELTS preparation online course. You will be receiving the link to it together with the guide that I have prepared for you. And also here I have, if you go to this website, you will find a link to the webinar, which I also run, about 7 steps how to score 7 and higher in IELTS. And I share some tips about all the skills there. So thank you so much for listening. I hope I used the time and did not speak too long.
Thank you, Elena. That was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, tremendous. A lot of resources. Just again, want to mention again, I see it kind of circulating in the chat. Our chat is quite active, so that's great. We'll use that tool going forward, basically asking about resources, how they can obtain resources. And I think the best thing is that fill out the survey, complete it, we'll get your email, and that way we can just basically send out like a follow-up document to everybody that contains all of these wonderful resources from all of our speakers to kind of make it this one kind of master guide that should just be an incredible source for tips and resources. So I think we'll do that. So make sure everybody does complete the survey. The link again is in the chat. But again, thank you, Elena, for your presentation. So I'm going to go ahead now and introduce and turn it over to our next invited guest speaker, Anna Tonke. And Anna, she absolutely, I met Anna not too long ago, this past year, you know, and social media is a wonderful tool where you can engage others, other teachers. And I had a question about a certain type of lesson, an idea that I had, and Anna, being, you know, the great teacher that she is, she responded and provided feedback about my idea. And it actually, we kind of shared a similar idea about using gaming in one of our lessons. So again, so really, Anna, it's such a privilege. Thank you for being here with us. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes,
Yeah?
we can hear you, Anna. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for inviting me here. I'll try to stick to my time limit. My guess is that I have 20 minutes to share my tips on writing. Unfortunately, I wasn't aware that we were supposed to have a slide with all our achievements and work experience. So as an option to this, I'm going to share a link to my school's website. I'm the founder of Grad Language Academy. It's a language school and teacher training center in Pavlodar, Kazakhstan. I'm the co-founder and director of studies there. and I specialize in teaching exams and teach training. So if you're interested in my qualifications and how I got everything listed here, it's going to be faster if you just visit the website, and there is also a video of me answering most of the questions you might have about my education and achievements. So I've been teaching English for about 12 years, 10 of which I've been preparing students for IELTS. And unfortunately, back then, we didn't run such wonderful sessions where you could learn from experts in the field and focus on each section separately. So I had to sort of learn from my mistakes and I just did my best trying to respond to my students' needs. Plus, I continued my teacher education, so that really helped to develop my own sort of approach or set of remedies for, to help learners improve in their skills. I chose to speak today about writing because writing is one of the most hated things, and both for teachers and students. Nobody really likes to work at it for a really long time, but somehow expects to have like a really high score. So I've prepared these 5 tips for you, what you can do to stay reasonable and to force yourself to work on writing, because writing is of those skills that you do have to write in order to improve writing. You cannot improve writing by watching YouTube videos about writing, by reading blogs, how to write best, or by even attending this session. It's not going to have huge impact and you until the time you actually start writing. And these days you can start writing in multiple ways. So I'll just make a quick stop because I'm not sure what kind of audience we have today. And if any of you are here to get some tips for general module IELTS, if you're prepping for to take IELTS for immigration, then just I have this one tip for you that this is the only IELTS task where you have to write a letter. And in this letter, you are expected to engage to show to the examiner that you can engage in personal communication, and then you can elicit, so get out and give general factual information, express needs, wants, likes, opinions, views, complaints in a very natural way. So in order to achieve that, my suggestion to you is make it meaningful. It is useless to just take IELTS tasks from a course book or any practical website and write a response to a fictional character. What can really help you is make it more realistic. Try to write emails to people you know well, or you know little, or you know kind of maybe with a real communicative purpose. So these days, it's possible more than ever. So I'm sure that even if you don't have close friends who live in English-speaking countries, I'm sure you have colleagues who are visiting, or you've been referred to a pen friend, or your friend has a friend living in the United States, or your neighbor has a friend who studies getting a degree somewhere in London or something. Use this opportunity. So first thing you do, you search out your circle of friends, circle of contacts, and you find somebody who has good command of English. You take the email information, and in your next email, just have a go. Write an email to a person you don't know, introducing yourself, telling who you are, and trying to communicate the purpose, why you're writing to this person, what you're writing about. Maybe you're writing to ask about life in America. Maybe you're asking to get information on how to apply for a scholarship, or how to rent an apartment, or how to travel best. What's the cheapest rate to a bus? I mean, make it communicative, make it real. If you're attending a preparation course, I highly advise you to start this email chain with your either trainer, if he or she is willing to do that with you, or your study buddies. Find a study buddy with whom you will exchange regular emails. Writing emails takes like 5-10 minutes while you're, I don't know, taking a bus to school or to work. Write a real short email saying, even writing to August, myself, write to Elena, write to people you don't know, people you randomly meet online, write to American Corners saying that, dear Saltanat, many thanks for organizing such a great webinar. Yeah, something like that. I attended it the other night. Could you please give me more information about August? I'd like to ask him a few questions. Even if you write this short email, which has real communicative purpose, it's gonna get into your bones. Doing this regularly will develop a habit of forming sentences faster and getting your message across faster and more naturally. Because even if you do it unnaturally, a person who replies to you would likely correct you nicely and say, "Did you mean this?" and blah, blah, blah. So if you manage to start this email chain, you will definitely benefit from it. Definitely helps in your preparation for letter writing or any other exam. Maybe you're here to get some tips on Cambridge Advanced or Cambridge Proficiency Test, First Certificate, and many others. My second tip, and feel free to ask questions in the chat if that actually works. I do that with my students and it works and they love it. And it's also, if you're a teacher, it's also a nice way to remind your students that they have homework due by writing them an email. My second tip is for everybody who's here for academic module. It's a tip on writing graphs. Never have I ever met a person who sees the IELTS graphs for the first time in their lives and loves them. Never. Usually people's faces go blank and they're like, what is this? Why am I seeing this? What do you want me to do with this? It's not a kind of task that you would see in other exams. And my students often ask me, like, what's that for? What do examiners want to get out of it? What they want to get out of it is that they want to see how if you're able to translate graphic information into words and words back into graphic information, because that's one of the skills or sort of presentation technique that you would be using when you study abroad at an international university and reporting on your findings on a paper or something like that. So here it's very important to look at the instructions. Instructions always tell you what is expected from you. The instructions here are to describe, compare data, select factual information, or describe a describe a process. These instructions are always given, and you do need to really select reports only main features, describe and compare data, and rely only on factual information. You don't need to interpret the information, say about what it likely means. You don't have to be an expert in the field. You are only the translator, a person who translates from graph form, visual form, into verb form. That's what you need to understand. And task achievement is something that students generally struggle with because they're not really reading the instructions well. So one thing is like my tip 2 deals with, again, learning from real life models. And what I mean by that is not learning from bookish examples of how to describe a graph. That's what students usually do. They open a book or a website which has a graph, and below it there is a text describing the graph, and they try to memorize some structures. First, try to understand how this task translates to a real world. And this is how it translates. Do you guys watch news? And you probably, even if you don't like it, every time you would see a weather report coming and a person pointing out to a map and showing and talking about the map and weather conditions. This is a very real life task. In IELTS, you're going to have a map. So next time you watch a weather forecast, watch it in English several times, more than once, and try to note how the person is saying, here up north, let's look at the other side, here in the southwest. All these expressions will be really handy and look really natural in your report. There is a wonderful program and a website called How Stuff Works. I will actually go ahead and demonstrate this website to you in just a second. How Stuff Works. One of my favorite websites to use when I work with IELTS students. This website is full of short articles, really short videos that are professionally made and professionally scripted to show you how different things work. You can learn from how a zip line works to how to merge lanes when you drive and how to do it nicely and correctly. This is a vivid demonstration of process task in IELTS. So if you just have this website saved under your bookmark this website, visit it every day. I don't know, read about something light. Maybe you don't want to read about money. Read something about lifestyle, and that's could be something like learn what 5 foods you should keep out of the fridge and why. And while watching this short report, you will definitely note some phrases and expressions how to describe a process best. Another also very natural way of learning how graph description works is watching financial news reports. This is usually when students, people in general, turn their TV off unless they study in economics or financial institutions. But this is something that even if you have no interest in the ratings and currency exchanges and how much the oil barrel costs, it's not about your interest. It's about watching a reporter showing you a graph of how the price of an oil barrel changes and how they skillfully translate this weird data we see on the screens and this line running on the bottom with all the prices, they skillfully and easily translate it to understandable text, trying to communicate lovely with the audience. Nowadays, internet streaming allows you to have subtitles run for whatever reporter is saying, and this is the nicest and naturalist model you can ever get, way better than any IELTS course book provides. A third or fourth, I don't know, natural way of seeing and learning from how reporters work is if you're a fan of sports. Come on, every time when there is a sport report coming up, a reporter would be showing you some sort of chart with the ranking of teams on the chart. If you're a football fan, there's always Europe Cup or World Cup with the positions of which country won and which country takes the last position. And this is, again, very natural modeling of the language. So you could be actually working on your writing skills while learning from something more natural than just boring course books and graphs that have no meaning to you. Absolutely. So if you are an inquisitive person, choose the how stuff works. You just learn about the world. If you're a sports fan, sport reports are the answer to this. I don't know what August is doing. He's taking some notes, and I'm not sure if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing because he didn't really tell me what he expects from me and what kind of tips I should be given. So, but this is how I see it, and this is the tips which I would give to my learners and which I commonly give to my learners. My tip 3 is using graphic organizers. In my school, we run IELTS mock tests on monthly basis. To allow all the students who study with us, as well as any other student who want to get adequate assessment of their skills, who want to assess their skills impartially, we simulate the test. And we always double mark this test as the real exam. So very often, once a month, I act as an examiner and I assess the work of people whom I've never seen and I've never taught. And one common mistake they often have is that the graphs, even if they're well written, the language is well learned, right? It's obvious from the task that they've spent time preparing and they learned some structures and they are doing their best in describing the data. The biggest mistake they make is that the description, the text is very descriptive, purely descriptive. There is no analysis in this. There is nothing, and the task is not fully complete because the task instructions tell you that you need to select data, compare and contrast it. The best I usually see is students contrast in data. They find the contrasts, but they fail to find what is similar. And there's always something similar and really different in those graphs. So read the instructions, try to do that. If you can't pick out, sometimes it's too much data on the graph. So what you can do, use this Venn diagram. It's a visual organizer. You would put, for example, in the blue field, everything about trend 1, purple field, bless you, Sultanat, everything about trend 2, and whatever this trend 1 and 2, whenever they intersect or have something in common, you would put it in the whatever purplish middle part. Even having this simple diagram, noticing 3 things and then writing about these 3 things will actually get you to achieving the task and scoring a little bit higher in task achievement that you usually did, because most people do omit the comparison and contrast one. I can see some questions, but I'll deal with them later because I don't see that they don't really relate to what I'm talking about now. So that's my tip 3. Tip 4 is will concern task 2, the essay. Again, never ever met a person who loves writing essays. That's probably, even I don't like writing essays that much. I like teaching how to write essays. Right, and here, luckily today we have lots of free and well designed materials for us. This one is a website developed by Cambridge Assessment, and Cambridge Assessment, they own part of the IELTS exam because IELTS is jointly owned by Cambridge Assessment, British Council, and Australian IDP organization. So since Cambridge Assessment really know what is designed in the task, they the course books that they publish kind of aim at these skills that they expect to learners to develop. So they recently, about a year ago, so not many people know about it, they launched a website called Write and Improve. I'm actually going to go ahead and demo the website for you. It's free. It's free. All you need to do is you just need to go to the website, click Start Practicing Now, and it will take you to a page, and we will ask you to either register or sign up with either your Facebook account or your Google account. I'm not going to create a new account, so I just signed up with Facebook. I'm sure that many of you have Facebook accounts. And here's what you can do. On the left, you choose the exam which is relevant to your needs. So if you're here for IELTS Academic, choose IELTS Academic. And there is plenty of tasks you can choose from, like whatever you choose, it doesn't really matter. You can also subscribe and get news about every new task that they do. I will actually show you a past task, which I did with my students. So that's what it looks like. You're given a task, which is exactly like the IELTS task. All the instruction, everything is the same. You're told that you need to compare and summarize information, and you're given a table. So a student of mine that we on that lesson we learned how to write better introductions. So we decided to get our introductions assessed. If earlier on a mock test his introduction scored, his whole writing scored less than a 5, then, and we figured that we need to start with introduction to improve it. This time we wrote an introduction. You can actually write a whole thing, but I was time constrained, so we wrote just 60 words, and then you ask for feedback, and it actually tells you, even like this piece of writing, at what level it is. It tells you that right now your score is potentially a 6, which is a completely free way of assessing your work, very impartial. Moreover, it gives you advice over here on what can be done. Quantity is a suspicious word. Maybe you should change it. Next, it shows you that maybe you need to change this, change that. You can click to changes and make some changes. Work on your task again. Set the timer to really and get a really good advice. You can also go to like task 2 and do the same with writing an essay. Here's an essay task. Again, not my work, my students' work, but I got the permission of using this material to demonstrate to you. So he wrote an email. He actually wrote this at home under time conditions. Then we just loaded it here because he thought that I was too strict on him, and he thought that he deserved way better than a 6. And I was like, no, that's definitely a 6. But if you want a second opinion, here you go. This thing is not going to lie to you, and it's developed by Cambridge assessors. We loaded the text in, and this is what it says. You raise your score to 6. So complete correct assessment on my side, and suggestions that the I is misspelled. I need to change the course. Children's, obviously a mistake he missed. This word is a redundancy, and so on and so forth. So that's how you work with it. You can actually, you don't really have to stick at IELTS. You could just work at your level or below your level. So like if you're aiming to get to advanced, maybe it's a good idea to start with intermediate and start working on paragraphs. So first try to write a paragraph. They will ask you for basic information and why you take the test, but that's understandable. They're doing it for free, so why not pay them with your information, who you are and why you're here. And this is a very nice and easy way, cheap way, completely free way of practicing your language. Hope you liked the tip. And any questions at that point about Cambridge Write and Approve? No? All right. I don't see any relevant questions, so I'll move on to my tip 5 to stay within the time limit. And my tip 5 is using collocations. Michael here earlier said that you should use idioms only in your speaking, but collocations, collocational competence can be assessed at both speaking and writing. Collocations in writing are great things, and collocations are possibly the hardest thing for language learners to comprehend and improve. Luckily today, again, we don't have this huge old-style dictionaries through which you have to go and waste lots of time trying to find a better word. Today we have everything digital, so I highly recommend you use online collocation dictionaries. There are several, and all of them are free. I have 2 favorite ones. I'll demonstrate them to you right now. One is Oxford Collocation Dictionary, free, completely free. What I mean by collocation is, I'm sure that when you write an essay, you often kind of, learners are tempted to use the same structures. Well, I'm sure that when I teach a new group of students and I ask them to, I don't know, state something about sport, they would say, it's very important sports are very healthy. Like how living healthy lifestyle is important. So lifestyle, for instance, how else you can say, how is there any way you can say it better? So what you could do, you could just enter a noun that you commonly use, like say my students often use, this is a very important topic, this is a very important issue. So important topic, important issue, the word important, I had a teacher who hated the word important, so we had to avoid it. But sometimes it doesn't stick with other words. So I would put in the common words students use. Students often say problem. Oh, that's a really good problem, they say. right? August is a teacher, he's nodding. So yeah, they always say it's a very big problem. But how about other things? How about saying it's a grave problem, serious problem, it's a growing problem, thorny problem? Just by replacing one adjective, you already sound a lot more advanced. Or students commonly use the essays often ask us to evaluate advantages and disadvantages. Students usually would say, this is the big advantage, the best advantage. So again, advantage. Okay, let's say disadvantage. So usually students I hear, they say big disadvantage, but how about other words? It is a major disadvantage, distinct, grave. It's a minor disadvantage, it's a small one. It's a serious one, and disadvantage that actually matters. So even if you take the words that are at the task of any writing task, like problem and solution, advantage and disadvantage, opinion, what kind of opinion, and improve this to a better collocation rather than mundane set of words, your writing will be improved overall. And yeah, I think that's about it. I stayed within my time limit. So here are my 5 tips on boosting up your writing score. Don't try to word lists, but improve your collocations, improve how your words go together. Check out this free Cambridge Write and Improve platform to really evaluate your score. Use graphic organizers to make sure you're truly comparing and contrasting data. In order to really engage with the data, I advise you to engage with real life models and examples from TV reporters and people who make videos on how things work, or like maybe videos on troubleshooting when your Zoom doesn't work or something. And finally, if you are here for the IELTS General, then learn writing letters by actually writing real letters to real people finding pen friends. And that's all. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to attend.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. Again, another terrific, great amount of resources. And just, yeah, that last website, writeandimprove.com, yeah, terrific site. So really thank you for sharing about that resource to all of our participants. Our numbers have grown. We have a very large group here joining us this evening. So we thank all our participants for being here. And Mr. Michael Walker is with us here too for the Q&A session. Good timing. Hi, Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hello, everybody. Hope you've had some fun.
Oh yeah. Terrific. I can tell definitely a lot of some good questions in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and have our Q&A session here for kind of our remaining amount of time. I've seen quite a few different questions pertaining to whether it was for speaking, maybe for Michael, or for listening for Elena, or things about writing, or things that Anna talked about as well. So again, feel free. And also I saw some general questions to things about stress and some other things like that, taking the test. So again, we'll kind of open it up now for the Q&A session. I think Sultanat, you will kind of take over and help us out with some questions, right? And we'll kind of direct it maybe to the specific invited speaker that maybe could answer those questions.
Yes, sure. Thank you, August. We will demonstrate our question right now. Before we demonstrate, I would like to thank Michael, Elena, Anna. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your tips and experience with us. I see a lot of appreciation words here in the comments below. So let's see what we have. The first question is from Riza. The fluency is the most harshest problem for me. I guess it's possible to gain fluency by yourself. Am I right? Is it possible or not?
That is a good question. Possibly, maybe Michael. Do you want to maybe address that one there, Teresa?
Everything is possible. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. as I said in the video, I think the best thing to do is to just keep practicing answering those kind of difficult part 3 questions and really difficult part 2. Because if you think about your answers to a part 1 question like, what do you do? Do you work or are you a student? And you straight away say, I'm a student. That's very fluent because you've practiced it, you've said it so many times, you're so used to it. So you can definitely achieve fluency by yourself, watching English and American dramas and things like that can help with it. But certainly what I find my students like a lot is recording themselves into their smartphone, listening back to it, and then continuously improving on that. So yes, it can happen, but it takes a lot of work.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, yeah. And if any of our other, Elena or Anna, feel free if there's anything else that you'd like to add to this, we can kind of respond to these questions kind of collaboratively too. So feel free to jump in.
So I'm with Michael on developing fluency and making recordings. This is definitely something that can help.
So may I jump in with this too? So as for fluency, I've researched this a lot too. And I think if you're worried about fluency, you should measure your fluency in your native language. So if you are not fluent in your native language, you cannot be fluent in a foreign language. So try to record yourself in both languages and see, even count the words. How many words a minute do you pronounce in your own language? And then how many words do you pronounce in English? And just be yourself. You cannot make yourself fluent if you are not fluent in your native language.
Thank you. Thank you, our speakers. Actually, 2 questions was the same, so we skipped one of them. The question from Nur-Sultan: is it possible to find a textbook or website which has a list of all IELTS speaking questions possible?
And again, we can say everything is possible.
Yes, it is.
There are lots of websites that kind of generate and put together all the past exam questions. But the question should be like, do we really need to? There is an infinite number of questions or variations of the same questions that could be asked. I guess here it would be more efficient to focus on functions and conveying certain functions, and that would be expressing likes, dislikes, expressing an opinion, and just addressing different topics. So if you keep it within possible topics and possible functions, that would be more doable than just trying to answer every possible variation of a question.
Yep, that's right. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. The question from Alessia: how to differ false and not given in the text? Some sentences are very similar. Saying Alessia. Do you have any tips how to differ them?
I do. I don't know, but should I be speaking all the time?
If maybe there's just a couple points, just something maybe kind of brief that you can add here, that'd be fine.
I'll just put a textbook that I use a lot in the chat for you all. Mindset for IELTS. That has some really good tips for reading and listening questions and how to answer the more difficult yes, no, not given, true, false, not given questions. But I think for those types of questions, again, there's no real kind of magic bullet, because I sometimes get caught out by them as well. So it's one of those things where you've got to really be, the most important thing I think for the reading and the listening is that you've got to be paying attention to it. You've got to be focused for the whole hour. But that textbook is very good. If anybody can, if you can get that in Kazakhstan, it's a really useful one. It's made by Cambridge, so it's it has all of the questions and the different reading and listening exercises.
Thank you, Michael. And I think that you already answered for our next question from Ayolum Denisova, who is asking, are there any books or materials that you can recommend to prepare to the IELTS? And also during the speech of our speakers, we also mentioned other resources for preparing for IELTS too. Another question from Ayolum is how to overcome the stress during interview. I like this question. What do you think? Could you suggest any methods?
I've often said to my students that before they go into the speaking part of the exam, if they can try and find somebody they can talk to in English before they go there. And there's some good online English tutor programs like Cambly, where you can get a free 5-minute trial. So you could sign up for that, and before you go to the exam hall, have a little 5-minute conversation with somebody on the phone at one of these tutoring companies. I'll write it in the chat for you all. And that can really kind of relieve the pressure. But I do think that the way the exam is set up, especially the speaking test, is that part one are very simple questions for you to try to calm your nerves. Things like, where do you live? Do you like music? What kind of movies do you like? Those kind of very simple part one questions are designed to relax you a little bit before you go into the more difficult part two and part three. So just enjoy the first part of the exam, because they're all questions about you, and you should be really confident with talking about yourself. So just use the exam to help you get relaxed, really. That's my advice. I know it's difficult, but that would be my advice.
Thank you for your advice, Michael. Yelena, Anna, do you have something to add here?
So I usually ask my students to call me and I talk to them.
So. Great advice. Thank you, Elena. And thank you, Anna. Next question is about information on properly describing maps and processes. I guess it's about writing.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, Anna, maybe you gave us a lot of already kind of some resources, but maybe just to address this one specifically, like one resource might be good for that.
Well, if we talk about real life examples, then for describing maps, it's a good idea to watch weather forecasts. And for processes, I highly recommend there is a discovery program called How Stuff Works. It's there is a web version and there is a broadcast version. As for like written models, then pretty much any course book would have some. I already wrote in chat that I really like Macmillan's series. How to improve your IELTS reading, improve your IELTS writing, would say. They have really good models there for writing.
Thank you, Anna, for your resources. I hope that our participants got it. We're going to the next question from Alessia. Are there any words or phrases we must not use in writing? That's a question for you, Anna, I guess, again.
Okay, so I'll take that. Well, obviously, you should stick to academic English, and that means that you should avoid idioms. So, as Michael said, idiomatic language, colloquial expressions. You should avoid contractions, short forms of the verbs, couldn't, shouldn't. You should say could not, should not. Cannot is one word in British English. In American, doesn't really matter. What else? Contractions. Do not use abbreviations. So do write in full. Do not write E.G. You write for example or such as. And one example that springs to mind. So these are definitely no words. So inappropriate words.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you. Next question. It's from Ahbut Pierre. Good morning or afternoon, she's saying. If we start from scratch, how long does it take to get ready if we want to get 7.5? She already have a goal, 7.5.
Yeah, and anyone feel free to provide any kind of a generalized preparatory type of things to do.
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think it depends where you are, what you mean from starting from scratch. But I would say that it also depends on how much time you're going to invest in studying for IELTS. If you're doing, if like I said in the video, if you're like immersing yourself in English and you're just doing everything in English, it'll take you a lot. It'll be a lot quicker to get to 7.5 than if you're just doing like one hour of English practice a week. So there's a lot of variables there, right? Where are you at the moment, and how much practice are you going to do in a week? But I've managed to get a student from about a 6 to a 7.5 in about, I think about 1 month of lessons, and it was like, I think it was about 3 lessons a week. So that was just speaking. They were already very good at the other skills. So that's what I mean. They were already quite proficient in English, so it wasn't a major challenge.
Cool. In 1 month, 3 times a week. That's our answer. Thank you, Michael.
Can I jump in too?
Sure, Yelena, please.
So actually, it's really easy to calculate because there are some CEFR levels hours, and you can find them anywhere. For example, you need about 200 hours to achieve A1, and then double that for A2, and then double that for B1. So 7.5 is C1, I guess. So you should plus and add all those hours and plus preparation for exam to study the strategies, and that's it. So then divide by the number of hours you're going to study every day, and you will get the time.
Cool. Thank you, Elena. Just simple calculations. All right. So.
And also, I'm just going to kind of jump in here for a moment too, since we're getting closer to our time. I just want to mention that I just put into the chat a link to our feedback form. So if you have all of our participants, we really appreciate you. We're receiving good feedback. I've seen a lot of comments, a lot of appreciation. And I'm sure that you guys may still have maybe some questions that you didn't put into the chat. So please click on the link to fill out the feedback form. There in that feedback form, you'll be able to provide us some insight into things that you learned or things you thought that were interesting. And also this will be an option for you to be able to provide some questions, some specific questions that you still may have. And in that way, we'll be able to gather this information. I'll share it with all the other speakers here today. And then that way, maybe that we can help to use that feedback towards a follow-up document that contains some resources and links that we think would be appropriate to maybe address some of the questions in the feedback. So again, the link is in the chat right now. Please click on that link to fill out the 321 feedback form. Thank you.
Thank you, August. Yep, dear participants, let's complete our survey. It's important for us. And we're going to the next question. We have another 6 minutes. So let's see what we have. I guess it's free only for 2 months. Anna, I guess it's about writeandimprove.com because it was during that time. A question from there.
I'm afraid I wouldn't know because I haven't used it for so long. I've actually been using it for about a year, but it's been on and off. And last year they started off as a completely free resource, but now it could be a paid one. I'm not sure. But come on, with the right investment of time, 2 months can make sufficient progress to your writing. In your writing.
Yes, you're right. It's pretty enough. Thank you. 2 months. It's also good. Next question, please. I guess it's again about writing part. When you have a question asking for your opinion, like to what extent do you agree, disagree on, and you want to show a balanced opinion, partial agreement, how to structure the essay?
I'm afraid it's a full 1 hour lesson at least to do, but the most important thing would be to really grade your opinion. That's important, and try to really express it. Focus on how your opinion matches the opinion of the majority. If it's the same or different, what things you agree or disagree with. Just the most important thing is make your opinion to really stand out. It has to be really visible. And in terms of structuring it, if you could choose a balanced approach. There are actually 2 approaches, and you mentioned them. It could be a balanced approach or a more persuasive kind of essay. For people who are not much into critical thinking and analysis and don't care much about what other people think or say, maybe straightforward approach would be a better one. Persuasive approach, and this would be way easier to structure. You start with your opinion, Then you provide the reasons for your opinion. You remind the reader about your opinion in every paragraph, and you finish in a conclusion with your own opinion. So your opinion has to be marked in every paragraph. If you choose a balanced approach, then make sure you devote at least one paragraph to the opposite point of view, to the counterpoint, and you say why you disagree with it. Like, don't forget it. You need to present it and say why you don't support it.
Thank you, Anna. And you was right, as this kind of question is very specific. I guess we need to skip some of them due to our tight schedule. Sorry for that, dear participants. I guess we'll skip this question. It's again too specific. Do you teach students types of essay, or just answer the question following the structure and criteria of IELTS writing part 2? Maybe just shortly.
Essay types. I teach my students, and I recommend you to learn how to write different paragraph types and essay types. My recommendation is start with a paragraph. Paragraph is a building block of your writing.
Thank you for your advice. Next question. And we already have answer for this question. Writing is always checked by experienced examiners, by 2 actually. Thank you. Next one. I think this question, I guess a lot of participants are like trying to figure out how you got any ideas how to find a serious speaking partner to practice together in our current lockdown situation. Any ideas, dear speakers? Michael, Yelena?
Yeah, sorry, I think probably looking at the comments, you've got a lot of people who would be serious speaking partners on there. So again, just do it virtually like we're doing now. You can share, you know, if you want to, you can find people and share a Zoom meeting with them or a Teams meeting and just talk that way. They don't have to be in the same city anymore. So I think there'll be lots of people on here. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Yelena, Anna, something to add?
Well, I just wanted to say that they could use American Corners Kazakhstan resources to find like-minded people.
You're totally right, Anna. August?
Yeah, very good. Oh, well, I mean, there are various programs. I mean, definitely American Corners Kazakhstan. Depends on what region where you're located in, but definitely there are opportunities there through various different types of webinars, like the ones that I've been presenting through Nur-Sultan, but then all regions do have that. So there are a lot of other opportunities and programs as well through the U.S. Embassy of Kazakhstan to provide opportunities for English language learners to maybe even not just necessarily focus on IELTS, but I mean just for language learning in general, different types of exchanges. It looks like we are out of time. I know Michael has to pop out. He has some stuff to do. So I definitely, once again, I really just want to thank each one of our invited guest speakers. Just tremendous tips, tremendous resources. Elena, Anna, Michael, thank you, all of you very much for being here. Thank you, Sultanat. Thank you, American Corner, Nur-Sultan, and all the American Corners all across Kazakhstan. Tremendous organization and a lot of opportunity to improve not just IELTS, but then again for improving your English language learning abilities. The feedback form, again, is in the chat. So please, everyone, complete that one. Click on the link, fill out the form so we can get, again, that kind of critical information. It will be shared with all our invited speakers to find out, again, what was interesting, what you learned, and also what potential questions you may still have as well, too. Anything else, Elena, Anna, Michael, did you guys want to share anything else?
Thank you so much for inviting us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.